Deion Sanders is talking to Jerry Jones in the Dallas Cowboys. Not a question anymore. Deion Sanders has come out and acknowledged that he and Jerry have had conversations. Deion says when Jerry calls, of course, he's going to listen. But he's very happy being in Boulder. And it's one of those answers that's not going to placate anybody. If you are a recruit, this is probably not great news. But isn't this exactly what Deion Sanders is supposed to say? I love Jerry. I respect Jerry. Jerry's a personal friend of mine. When he calls, I'm going to listen. But man, Colorado football, go Buffs. That's exactly what Deion Sanders is doing. And here's the part that I think's upsetting so many people. This is exactly what he should be doing. This is exactly how he should be handling it. Because if you're Jerry Jones and you and Mike McCarthy parted ways, mutually agreeing to part ways, how do you not call Deion Sanders? He is inarguably one of the hottest coaches in college football right now. He's one of the best recruiters. He has clearly taken a dead in the water Colorado Buffaloes program, completely turned it around. How do you not call Deion Sanders? And frankly, if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you hire Deion Sanders, what's the net effect? You're probably going to win more games. When you lose, you're probably going to sell more tickets, beer, and hot dogs while you're losing. Jake, I don't see a negative here for the Dallas Cowboys.
And I think that's why Jerry's calling him, because there's just not really too much downside to it. I think the only downside that people are going to be able to come up with is that, obviously Deion hasn't coached in the NFL yet. And that's going to be, the haters are going to knock Deion for that. And they're going to say, hey, well, he doesn't have experience. This is strictly a hire for the cameras and the publicity team. And, it's a very Jerry Jones trying to be the center of attention kind of hire. But when I look at Deion, I see him as a guy who obviously had a huge impact as a player. That's putting it mildly, I would say. He was the one of the best players of his generation. And then as a coach at the college level, he's now rebuilt two programs. And obviously, again, all the haters are going to say, well, Colorado didn't go to the playoff. Colorado didn't do this. Colorado didn't do that. But the reality of the situation is, because he sees somebody who can bring the Cowboys back into a more positive spotlight, back into a position where it's not always about, contract negotiations and, is Dak good enough? I think that's why Jerry Jones likes Deion. I'm not so convinced that Jerry's like, oh, well, Deion's going to go out and win me Super Bowls. I don't think that anybody can say that right now, because he hasn't coached in the league yet. So I don't think there's too much downside for the Cowboys, but I think for Deion, there is a lot of risk here. And I think this is probably why, if you're Deion Sanders, you're a little skeptical inside. Now, you're never going to say that, but on the inside, you're probably a little skeptical. Jerry Jones is someone who turns over his head coaches all the time. Jerry Jones has shown not to be a great general manager. The Dallas Cowboys, under Jerry Jones's leadership, have shown to be an organization that's always, sort of in turmoil. They're always, if they're a 10-win team, that's not good enough. They got to be winning Super Bowls. If they're a 5-win team, you're going to fire everybody and everything's terrible and the world's ending. And so I think for Deion, this ride he's been on has been very positive and has been very growth-oriented, obviously. And I'm just not sure that the Cowboys, for Deion Sanders, are the best, first job you could take. I think there's a lot of risk from a career standpoint for Deion Sanders. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I think it is very questionable how Jerry Jones has gone about this. Yesterday, it was announced that the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy mutually agreed to part ways. Then why did you deny him access to a Chicago Bears interview? Why did you decline to allow that to happen? Because now, as of today, he is free and clear to interview with the Chicago Bears. So all you did, Jerry, was delay your hiring process. You allowed the best candidates available on the market to go talk to every other team while you were dysfunctional in your own house. You disrespected a guy in Mike McCarthy, and say what you want about Mike as a head coach. He is universally liked and respected amongst his peers. This is just Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's contracts all over again.
Mm-hmm.
The timeline doesn't work. The tactics here, the strategy here, none of it makes sense if you're the Dallas Cowboys. But isn't that who Jerry Jones has been over the last, especially I think it's gotten worse as he's aged over the last 5 years? I just don't understand the delay. I don't understand the methodology here. You had to have known, and maybe I'm making a leap here in assumption. You knew when the season ended that you were likely not bringing Mike McCarthy back. And the idea that you would deny him access to another interview with the Bears, it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. They're not in the division. They're not likely to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Like, why do you care? You're not retaining that guy. Only now to bounce back. And do you really have access to Ben Johnson? Who's the best available coaching candidates out there? Well, Mike Vrabel probably would have taken an interview with you.
Right.
But is Ben Johnson really going to leave the comforts of Detroit to go to Dallas, where you have no trajectory, no cap space, and a severe lack of talent? Ben Johnson's going to leave Detroit for that situation. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So all you've done now is disrespect a well-liked head coach. You've made yourself look like a jackass again. And now you lost out on at least one very desirable head coach in Mike Vrabel, because I don't think there's any doubt that Mike Vrabel's discipline is what the Dallas Cowboys need. But I also don't think that you have access to the best available coaches.
Well, and I think your point about Ben Johnson the other day rings true in this conversation. I mean, we talked all about, and maybe it was last week when we first talked about it, but we talked all about how Ben Johnson was a guy who wanted to have control over his coaching staff and really wanted to have a lot of say over roster and coaching staff, and that's just not how Jerry Jones runs his organizations. We all know that. And so when you ask the question of does Dallas actually have access to the best head coaching candidates in the pool this time around, I would agree. I don't think the Cowboys have access to Ben Johnson. I think that whether it's the way they've acted with Mike McCarthy or just how Jerry likes to run the organization, I just don't think that that's an attractive job to a guy in Ben Johnson who reportedly, allegedly is a bit of a control freak, if you will, somebody who wants to have his stamp all over everything. And that's what makes it hard, because I think whether you're Ben Johnson, a really successful guy in the league, the top, head coaching candidate by most people's measurement, or you're Deion Sanders, someone who's having a lot of success at Colorado, having a lot of success just generally in the college ranks, you don't want to come to the NFL to take a job that could potentially flame out in 3 seasons. Why would you throw away everything you've already built? Now, if it was a job where it was like, hey, we're forward thinking ownership. We've got, we're good. We've been pretty good in the draft. We need someone to develop players. Okay. That's a little bit different. I would think if I was Deion Sanders, I would look more favorably on, the Bears job or several of these other jobs that are open, because ownership is a little bit more realistic, is a little bit more pliable to work with. And I think that's Jerry's biggest problem, whether it's the Mike McCarthy thing, whether it's how he's gone about these contracts with the players. He just feels like someone that's not enjoyable to do business with, because he's so stubborn about everything. And that's why I think if you're Deion, you can't take this job. But anybody saying that Deion's not going to answer the phone, as we've said a million times on this show, he's going to answer the phone. He's going to talk to Jerry Jones. He's going to talk to the Florida States of the world. He's going to have those conversations. So I just don't think that this should be like ultra surprising or like cause shockwaves. This is what guys do when they're at Deion's level.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't think this is surprising at all. And I don't know why anybody is surprised by it. But the hard truth for Jerry Jones right now is Colorado's a better job. I mean, Deion is the king of the court in Colorado. But I think Deion's also an incredible businessman. And smart business guys understand striking while the iron's hot. And I think when you look at where Deion is, his coaching stock will never be higher than it is now. He would have to go on and take Colorado to the college football playoff. He would have to, the heights he would have to achieve to have more success than he has now at Colorado. It's going to be very difficult to do that. And yes, he has dominated in the portal. He's got two really good quarterbacks there. You've got one of the top quarterbacks, out of high school. You've got one of the top portal quarterbacks. Like, he continues to bring in talent there. But that's not Shedeur and Travis. So if he was going to leave, as I've said for the better part of 2 months, I think this is the window he would leave in.
Right.
I don't ever believe he would have taken the Raider job. He has no relationship with Mark Davis. Al and Deion were very close. Well, got news for you. Al's been in the ground for several years now, right? I don't believe he was taking that job. Deion's not taking a call from the McCaskies or Ryan Poles or Kevin Warren.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jerry Jones. You're not saying no to that. And I'd also point out 3 reports over the weekend that Deion Sanders had interest in or flirted with Florida State, and that Mike Norvell's on the clock and this is his last year. And Deion Sanders, and if you're a Colorado Buffalo fan, I understand it's upsetting. Deion Sanders is one of the best candidates for every major college program that has an opening. End of story. And you don't have to like it. But Boulder is not a place where Deion went forever. I think it is very clear now that Boulder is a place that Deion Sanders went to prove himself, to grow himself as a coach, and to win. And he's done all of those things. And I think the other part of this is I don't believe that this is close to being done. My opinion is that Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones will have really serious conversations about this. I think Deion Sanders is the guy that Jerry Jones needs. Is Deion necessarily the guy that Jerry wants? Probably not. I don't think Jerry wants any brighter stars under the umbrella than himself. Deion Sanders would unquestionably be a bigger draw to the Dallas Cowboys than Jerry Jones. I think Deion Sanders helps them recruit talent. I think Deion Sanders helps them recruit new revenue and partnerships. Jerry is going to pursue Deion Sanders. And what's the other part of this thing with Jerry Jones that not a lot of people are talking about? Jerry Jones, for as much as he loses on the field, how often does Jerry Jones lose off the field? How often does Jerry Jones not get AT&T Stadium built? How often does he not have whatever that thing is that hangs over the 50-yard line and they call it a Jumbotron? How often is AT&T Stadium not booked for an event? How often does Jerry Jones not get what he wants? Not very often. And I think if he wants Deion Sanders, he is going to have to pay him now. Jerry doesn't like to pay coaches. And I think we've seen that with Mike McCarthy. Reports are that one of the reasons that Jerry parted ways with McCarthy is Mike wanted more personnel control. He wanted more money for himself, and he wanted raises for his staff. And he also wanted 3 additional years, not a 1-year extension. Jerry doesn't like paying coaches. But are you telling me you're calling Deion Sanders and you're offering him half a bag? Somehow I don't even see that as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that you go after a guy like Deion and you go halfway after him. I think you're exactly right. I think if you're going to go after Deion, obviously from Jerry's side of the negotiation, there's risk in the sense that Deion's, would be a new head coach in the NFL, but you're not doing it to win games per se. And I think that's the conversation. Jerry Jones loves to be the center of it. And if you hire Deion Sanders, and let's say that Deion comes in and crushes it, and, you're a playoff team in year 1, maybe, you go wild card weekend, you lose. Okay, great. That's a huge success if you're Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones, given their contract situation on their roster. So I just think that Jerry Jones, you're exactly right. He does get everything he wants. He does, whether it's the building or, have an event after event or, whatever it might be, or his business dealings before he owned the Cowboys, right? How do you think he came into ownership of the Dallas Cowboys? I can tell you it wasn't by not making money, right? Obviously, this is someone who's very good at business. So So to me,
This is the guy that fired Tom Landry. This is the guy that made not a huge hire, but a splashy hire in Jimmy Johnson, a splashy hire in Barry Switzer, right? Like, so you not only bought the Dallas Cowboys, but you fired Tom Landry. Then you go out and hire Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer. Like, he's hired that guy before. He's hired Bill Parcells. Let's not forget Bill Parcells. Those of us that were actually on this earth when Bill Parcells was a behemoth and a legend, when Bill Parcells went to the Dallas Cowboys, that was massive news. Jerry's been down this road. And the fact that people at ESPN are saying the talks are ongoing, this is going to get close. This is going to get very close. And again, is the Cowboy job better than Colorado? Not necessarily.
No.
But is it the right move for Deion Sanders? I think I can make a hell of an argument that it is. Because I think his success at Colorado without Shedeur and Travis is going to be very difficult to replicate. But again, as much as I think there are huge wins in the portal for the Big 12, I think the Big 12 is part of this conversation as well. The damage of losing Deion Sanders to the NFL would be immeasurable for the Big 12. The TV audiences alone that would be lost with Deion Sanders going to the Dallas Cowboys would be immeasurable.
Yeah, you're not getting an 8 million view game with BYU. That's not happening. And
millions and millions and millions.
I mean, look
of
around the
viewers.
Big 12. If Deion's not there, who are you looking to?
Who's your headline coach in the Big 12 at that point? I mean, the elder statesman would be Kyle at Utah and Gundy at Oak State. I mean, this would be incredibly damaging for the Big 12. As a brand, as a moneymaker, this would be incredibly damaging for the Big 12. I don't know, because if you're Colorado, where do you go?
Yeah, I don't know. You're going to have to do. I don't think that there's just an obvious choice to replace Deion Sanders, and I'm not sure, that you want to be the guy that replaces the guy in this situation. I'm not sure you want to step in for Deion. That's,
I don't know where you go here this late in the cycle, because I think the other thing you got to remember, kids don't come to Colorado to play for Colorado. And Buffalo fans, again, I know that this has been a huge talking point. These kids didn't sign to play for Pat Shurmur. Julian Lewis didn't sign to play because he loved the Colorado Buffaloes. He's there to play for Deion Sanders. What happens when Deion leaves for the Dallas Cowboys next week, if that were to happen? Well, instantly, these kids get 30 days to get in the portal. Do you know the Pier 6 brawl that would ensue for Deion's roster? And I know everybody on this show says he sucks and he can't recruit. I would remind you, the talent that is on that roster at Colorado would be desirable by just about any other power conference team.
And I think to that point, when we talk about how interested is Deion, if Deion wasn't interested in this at all, he'd already put this to bed, because you do have risk in recruiting. You think that kids aren't getting calls from other programs? You think other head coaches aren't looking at this Deion Cowboys situation saying, well, hey, if Deion leaves, everyone's getting in the portal. We got to get ahead of that ball. We got to be having conversations now. So that part of the conversation tells me, at least on some level, Deion is seriously looking at it, is considering it, is having the conversation. So I don't know. It's really interesting. Like, anytime a guy of influence, like Deion Sanders, has an opportunity, has a new position available to him, specifically one in the best football league in the world, the NFL, you have to wonder what's relevant to Deion Sanders, because it's not just the money, right? I mean, it's not just, oh, hey, I'm going to pay you a lot of money. It's more like, okay, Jerry, well, if I take this job, what's the outlook over the next 5 seasons? What are we doing here? What are we doing there? Like those, I think that's what they're talking about. They're talking about what the plan would be if Deion were to come in, because you already know you're going to have to handle the media circus. And Deion has shown a clear ability to do that.
But the Cowboys love that. They're the Lakers.
Yeah.
Having been in the room the day that Phil Jackson was hired by the Lakers, that was not chaos. This is who the Cowboys are. You bring in Deion Sanders, whoever the clothier is that's going to cut that custom suit for Deion that day.
Yeah.
The food, the spread, the media, the limos,
the sunshades in the press conference room,
the show that they would put on.
Yeah.
That's what Dallas is. The hot blondes with the huge racks, that's what Dallas is. That's who they are. And the idea that Deion Sanders could be the next head coach, I go back to Bill Parcells becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It's a very similar move. It is a very similar move. And I think Jerry knows how to do it. And Jerry's going to have to cough it up if he wants Deion Sanders. He's going to have to give him a long-term deal, and he's going to have to pay him.
Yeah.
Because if Deion stays at Colorado, he will win, and he will become the next head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. And the other thing is, if not Deion, who?
Mm-hmm.
Because who in the NFL wants to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Are you calling Jason Garrett back? You're probably not.
Nope.
And the other names in college that have been linked to this job, well, there's really one. Steve Sarkisian. Is Steve Sarkisian leaving the Texas Longhorns to go coach the Dallas Cowboys? He's not the draw that Deion is.
Well,
he's not the answer that Deion is.
And I think a lot of people before, Bill Belichick took the UNC job, a lot of people want to say, well, maybe Bill Belichick. But if that was going to happen, obviously it would have happened already. We would have already had that announcement. So
but what does Jerry Jones desire? Jerry Jones is talking to offensive guys. He is talking to guys, and he has over the last several years. When you look at the guys he interviewed, he didn't interview the best defensive guy for the job. He went and hired Mike McCarthy, and their offense has been really good. Do you think, and this is why the Belichick thing that I saw everybody talking about, I think is a bunch of hooey. He's not hiring Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He wants the best offensive guy because Jerry wants a show. That's what Jerry wants. Jerry likes offensive football, which is why his football team being so offensive, right? Like he's got to fix that offense. And the other thing about Deion knows how to hire a staff. Deion knows how to develop talent. Deion Sanders has shown you that he can put pieces together to score a lot of points. I'm telling you, it's a perfect fit. Will Jerry pay the money that's required to get Deion Sanders out of Boulder? That's the only question. And I think that money is there because the hard part for people in Boulder and Colorado fans is I don't believe that Deion's looking for the exit. I don't think he's looking to pull a ripcord.
No, I don't think he's unhappy in Boulder.
I think he's looking to talk to certain people. And Jerry Jones would absolutely be on that list. If you're the Chicago Bears, don't call Deion Sanders. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, you better call Deion Sanders. That's just how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's going to hurt your feelings in Boulder. You're not the last job he's ever going to have. You're not this idea that there's a love affair and it's special and we're bosom buddies and Deion likes the fur and the snow. If that's what you need to get through the day, snort it, mainline it, do what you got to do. Just know you're living in a false reality. Deion Sanders, and I'll play you the video. Deion Sanders has routinely said, I'm not leaving. Right? Listen to Deion Sanders talk about leaving Colorado just before Thanksgiving.
I tell him all the time, I'm comfortable where I am.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it. I only speak one language. You know, I can't say, I wish I spoke several different languages so they would understand more candidly, but I'm happy and content with where I am.
I got my kickstand down.
Yeah.
And again, what did Deion Sanders tell ESPN? I like it here in Boulder, but it's Jerry Jones, and I'm going to listen. That's what the harsh reality of where you are.
Yeah, I just don't think that, I think it's hard because, Colorado fan, obviously you don't want to lose Deion Sanders. This is as relevant and as good as you've been in quite some time. So I totally get it from Colorado fans' perspective. I understand why it's frustrating. I understand why it might even be painful for you. But you have to understand where Deion Sanders is in his arc, in his development, if you will, in his career path. Bro, this is only stop number 2. This was always going to be, hey, I'm going to time this up. If you think Deion hasn't mapped all this out, you're up in the night. And this is what I think people don't realize. Bro, do you think it was an accident that he had all, his kids, and then he also had Travis Hunter, and he also had all that talent lined up for these 2 seasons? His first 2 seasons?
And do you think it's an accident he won at Jackson State and at Colorado?
That's not an accident. This is planned. This is everything that Deion wanted it to be. And so the only question that really anyone should be asking is, what does Deion Sanders want to do? Does he want to stay at the college level and go to Florida State, or does he want to go to the NFL? And if he does want to go to the NFL, is going back to the Cowboys now as a coach when you played there something that matters to Deion Sanders? Or is this more of a transactional situation where it's Jerry Jones calling, it's an NFL head coaching job, and it happens to be the Cowboys, so it all kind of fits together?
I don't even think it's any of that. I think that Deion Sanders would take the jobs Deion Sanders would take, you could fit in a thimble. There are not many. And I drink 100 liters of liquid a day. The 1/8 of a 1/10 of a 100th of a liter that I just drank that's choking me out right now. I think the jobs DM would take would fit in a thimble.
Yeah.
And I think the Dallas Cowboys are on that list.
So would you hire Deion if you were Jerry?
Fuck yeah, yes. Excuse my French almost. Yes, today.
Yeah.
The jet is already on the way to Boulder.
Yeah.
My dude.
Yeah.
I would. And, I was talking to a guy yesterday about this, and I said, excuse me, what do you think Jerry Jones would do to get Deion Sanders? And, one thing that was brought up to me that I think is really interesting, Jerry Jones would buy Deion's house in Boulder, which is a really interesting thing because there are rumors that Deion is building a custom home in Boulder. And if you're Deion and you're building a custom home, are you thinking you're leaving soon? You're not. But if you're building a custom home and you already have a beautiful home, that's money out of your pocket. Because as soon as Deion puts that home on the market, or as soon as he takes the job in Dallas, what happens to the property value?
Right.
Goes down. I think that's a really interesting point. What's the compensation package going to have to be to get Deion to leave Boulder? And if he truly is, and I don't know if it's true or not, if he's building a custom home in Boulder, Jerry's going to have to buy that house. I would guess.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Yeah.
And I think he will. I also think, and this is something that Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones battle over, you're going to have to allow Deion to hire his own coaches. And I can tell you right now, Warren Sapp's going to be one of those guys.
And I would agree with you. I think Deion's shown the ability to hire great staff. I
He
think
has.
that's just not in question. I think that he's had big name after big name want to coach with him. So I wouldn't personally have any problem with Deion hiring his own staff. I think when you talk about like footballing and X's and O's, where the rubber meets the road is the money situation with the roster. Understanding, hey, who is expendable here? Dak's not expendable. Obviously, Lamb's going to be there. What are you doing? What are we doing with Micah? And how can we improve this offense? Those are the questions that I think when you talk about, hey, what's the compensation package got to look like? Part of that compensation package has to be that they're on the same page about what the plan is. Because I'm telling you right now, one thing Deion has had at Colorado is a blank check to go out and get people.
But did anybody hear? It's really interesting. Did you hear Rich Brickman say, is the Dallas job desirable? I don't think it's desirable, like I talked about earlier, to Ben Johnson. I think it's desirable to Deion Sanders, because would it be easy for Jerry Jones to fire Deion Sanders?
No.
Does Jerry Jones fire coaches willy-nilly? No, he doesn't. How much rope did Jason Garrett get?
A lot.
Look at this situation with Mike McCarthy. But what did Jerry do to Mike McCarthy? Jerry tinkered with his staff, tinkered with his roster, made bad decisions, didn't sign Dak when Mike McCarthy wanted Dak Prescott extended, right? So I just think it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's for Deion Sanders, because Deion can handle that. He can handle controversy. He can handle his kid filing bankruptcy in the middle of a football season. He can handle all of that.
Yeah.
He's the perfect guy. And more to the point, I think Jerry needs Deion Sanders.
Yeah, they need something more positive to talk about in Dallas. I mean, I really do think that if I was in Jerry's, corner, that would be one of my main points. Hey, we got to have something else to talk about here as far as the franchise is concerned, because all you're talking about is money after money with players and firing head coaches. That's it.
Yep. Let's go hit the like button right now. We have close to 1,000 views on the channel already. Hey, listen, if you're on Spotify, if you are on Twitch, X, we got to talk about Elon potentially buying TikTok. Please don't. Anyway, if you're watching on X, Facebook, wherever you're watching the show, come on over to YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Just Google search The Monty Show. The Monty Show. Super easy to find. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. So hook that up right now. Let's get to the comment section, because I can see all of you commenting. We have close to 700 comments already. So I can see you guys commenting. Yeah! The comment section, as always, presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks. I didn't have much success at anything yesterday in life. Let's just be honest about it. Yesterday was kind of one of those days where you flush it down the toilet.
Right.
But it was a beautiful thing last night in the NBA, as I continue to tell you that the NBA is where Prize Picks thrives. Not the college football playoff. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the Golden State Warriors, who are one of the, in my opinion, worst defensive teams in the NBA right now, went to Toronto to dap up Drake last night.
Right.
I would like to thank Scotty Barnes, who had a 31.5 point rebound and assist number last
Scotty.
night. For going 23 points, 8 boards, 6 dimes. Winner. I would like to thank Stephen Curry.
Right.
For going less than 6 3-pointers. 4 of 10 last night. Chaboy cashed. Right? So you're like, but Marty, you always tell me to go with 3. Well, that's because the Los Angeles Lakers were playing last night. And what do I tell you about the Lakers? That Anthony Davis is the surest thing on Prize Picks that you are ever going to have. 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. You think he met it or missed it?
I think he met it.
He met it. 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 dimes. Friends, that's 45 on a 41.5-point number. They lost. Victor Wambin, your mama, who I almost took in this game, also had a 39.5-point number. 23 and 8 is 31, and 5 is 36. So Victor's the way. Because Victor sucks.
Yeah, Garbo.
I would also remind you real quick, Prize Picks. Let me get over to college football because I got to find the college football tab. Prize Picks right now has Will Howard on a free pick. Will Howard. And what do I tell you about Prize Picks, right? 3 selections on a flex play. That means 2 or 3 have to win. Will Howard, half a passing yard in the national championship game. Boy, I'm telling you, download the Prize Picks app right now. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantly when you use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, Monty. Will Howard gives you just got to find one more to hit, and it's probably not Jeremiah Love in that game. I would probably go with one of the Ohio State receivers.
It's probably not Riley Leonard for more than 170.5 passing yards.
No.
Go ahead and take an easy less on that one.
Coming up in 20 minutes, I do want to talk about Will Howard. Why do Ohio State fans want to downgrade Will Howard? The disrespect of Will Howard is remarkable to me. We'll talk about that in 20 minutes. Is Deion Sanders leaving? Is Deion Sanders leaving Colorado to go to Dallas?